Pereno.
Here we are, another podcast, another Tuesday.
We need a
From another destination, my friend. You don't look like you're in your office right now.
I am not in my office, Mike. Let me just share our podcast to my page. Join us
Join
and
us.
share. There we go. Um no, Mike, I am on the shores of beautiful Lake Michigan. It's hard to tell, but right behind me is Lake Michigan back there. I guess it can't really you
I can
kind
see
of see
Lake
it.
Trees, Michigan, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. But I am out in Stevensville, Michigan. That would be for those that know how it works. I'm right over here. So there's Detroit, and I'm over here on the shores of Lake Michigan. If I went any farther west, I would be in Indiana on my way to Chicago.
Awesome.
And yeah, so this is where my wife has her family reunion. And actually, I can
All
even
right.
I'll even show you here since I got the camera going here.
The BTS.
Yeah, so this is our little deck right here, and then you can see looking down the way here, you can see all the
Oh, yeah,
chalets and
cool.
stuff, and then there's Lake Michigan out there, and
Nice.
so all there's like 100 of these chalets in this resort complex, right? And you
They
can see the
do look
beach.
like A's.
Yeah, the chalets, right?
They're not Schlebes.
And so as you go around, there's just more and more of these chalets, and so all of her family rents, for the week, these chalets, and we've got ours and a bunch of our family just going down this line,
That's cool. You
and
kind
yeah,
of take over the place.
we do. We kind of take over the place, and they have pools, and they have the beach, and we brought the boat. We're gonna put the boat in Lake Michigan today, go cruising
Nice.
around, and it's gonna be awesome. But I could not miss
Can't
an
miss it.
episode of the podcast with my boy. Got to be
I'm,
here with you,
yeah,
man.
I'm not as exciting of a location today. I'm at home, but I did just get back from San Diego, which I would say is one of my favorite cities outside of Michigan. So I love visiting there. Did some work there for the week and took an extra day to do some surfing. Get in the water, spent about 5 hours surfing, then couldn't move after that. Decided to call it a day, and just enjoyed some tacos on the beach after that.
Tell me about surfing. I tried to go surfing once, up in the port, not in Portland, but straight west of Portland, where you get out to the ocean. I was out
Right.
there, and a buddy of
It'd be
mine
a
tried to
lot
take me
colder
surfing.
water there.
It was. We had wetsuits on, but I am. I'm a taller guy, and I'm top heavy, and my legs aren't like very bendy. So I had a hard time with the pop up, right?
Right. Yeah,
Laying
that's the
down to
trick.
getting up. That was hard for me. So like, but I know that those that do surf, it's like a religion. So like, what does it mean to you? What is it like?
Yeah, so people are like, well, how the heck did you surf if you lived in Michigan your whole life? So I was lucky enough to have family in San Diego. First time I ever surfed, I think I was 10 or 11. My dad took me out there, San Diego, Pacific Beach, and he used to live out there when he was in the Marine Corps in the 60s. So he would surf and then kind of would tell me these stories. And before I had ever even tried surfing, I was already obsessed with it, right? Like, this is going to be the coolest thing ever. So watch videos, watch Endless Summer a million times, the movie. If you're not familiar with it, you
Oh
should
yeah,
watch it.
yeah.
Um, and then basically spent an entire week getting destroyed, beat up, almost drowned by the ocean. But then you catch one wave and you're hooked. So at 12, went back again, surfed, and then every year or so we'd go back. So I kind of grew up surfing, even though I live across the country from an ocean. So I've had a chance to surf all over the country, all the way to Hawaii, Mexico, Florida, California, up and down the coast. So anytime I'm near water that has waves on it, I make sure I schedule some time to go surfing. So this time, spent, like I said, about 5 hours in the water at Pacific Beach. Really awesome little town just in San Diego there, and caught a bunch of awesome waves. It was a really calm day. A buddy of mine went there as well. So Joel, good job. He got a couple of waves, got up. But I was able to get in the water and spend some time there. So
Love it.
epic,
So
awesome, tons of fun. It's basically like wrestling the ocean that's trying to drown you and add sharks.
and the ocean always wins
No
eventually.
matter how good you are, you'll see these guys that are like way better than I'll ever be, wiping out regularly. So as soon as you one little move, one little misstep, boom, tumble, 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 hit the bottom of the ocean, get smacked by the board, whatever it is, and then go out and get the next one.
There you go. I love it. Now, do
So
you since you traveled out there, I assume you rent a surfboard while
Yeah,
you're
there's
out
a
there?
spot I always rent. If I'm in PB, I rent there. I had some boards over the years that I would keep with family or friends. Either I outgrew them or I broke them or, sold them because it was like a year or two. And I was like, yeah, it's cloud in your garage. Just sell it. Thanks for letting me keep it there. So
I
I
love it.
always just rent a nice longboard when I'm out there.
I do love San Diego. I've had the opportunity. I DJ'd a wedding out there, and then back in the early days when I actually still had a corporate, day job, I did
Right.
some meetings out there. I love La Jolla, and that whole area of San Diego is just amazing.
Yeah, there's some good spots to surf in La Jolla. So I was just south of La Jolla in PB, Pacific Beach. So
Okay,
super fun.
fantastic.
One
Well,
day we'll
welcome
make
home.
it out there together. We'll do some surfing together. How about that?
Yes, and if anybody is watching our podcast and you're a vendor or you're going to get married in San Diego and you need a great videographer, photographer, and MC for your wedding, call us.
Call us.
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, I may
Um,
actually be right back there in December. A buddy of mine's getting married, and he's got a really cool venue. So we were chatting while I was out there, and they don't have photo or video, so we're supposed to actually talk this week. So I'll be out in December, which is a great time
Don't
not
forget
to
your
be
boy.
in Michigan. Yeah, right. Totally.
I love it. All right, so last week we talked about building a dream vendor team and how it helps your weddings. And over the last few weeks, we've talked about sales process and what should be on your website, and how you handle getting to the sale, to the close, and all that.
Right.
And I was thinking today, let's talk about what happens after the sale. So they sign the contract, they send in their retainer, and now they're a client. And
Now
then
what's
what?
next?
Yeah. I thought we would talk about, because we have two different types of companies. There's a lot of information that we both need that I think overlaps, right? Your basic timeline information.
Yeah,
But there's a lot of things that are unique to the two of us, right?
totally.
Yeah, so I thought we would just walk through each of our processes, and then, of course, as always, if anybody's out there watching with us live, please jump in the comments like my mom did to say hello, and she's always here watching. But share your thoughts on how you guys do things. If you hear anything that we say that gives you good ideas or that you would do differently, by all means, let us know. But Mike, why don't you start? So somebody just signed a contract. They just submitted their retainer. And now you officially flag them as, confirmed or booked or however you call it in your system. From that point forward, how does your process work for working with your clients? And if you had clients watching, what would you tell them to help them navigate that process better?
Right. Yeah. So it's basically like there's a pipeline, right? So, like you said, you're going to start with the website, and then they come from there to talking to you, and then you get them some information. Now they're booked. So, what's next? So, I know a lot of people probably ignore their clients for the next foreseeable future, and then maybe touch base a month out before the wedding and hope for the best. Sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you have a client that's like planning from afar, and they're like, "Hey, we love your work. You had this great relationship in the beginning," and then they go back to their life. And even in that, we're sending them stuff. So even if they're not responding or they're not getting back to us, we have a little process along the way. So I'll tell you our ideal situation, but it doesn't always go that way, right? So usually people book, awesome. Send them a thank you letter. Thanks for booking. Here's the next steps we're going to be going over. Generally, if it's photography involved, we're also going to be doing an engagement session. Probably about 80% of our couples do engagement sessions. We also do them on the video side as well. We call them an adventure session for that. But that gives us a chance to work with them in person before the wedding day. So not just sit across the table, not just chat on the phone or Zoom or email. It gives us a chance to actually hang out and build a relationship. Whether it's me, one of my team, whoever's leading the event is going to be starting building their relationship there. So I always joke and say, now you get some practice of running the camera. You get some awesome photos or video to tell more of your story along the way. And then it's not just some weird guy showing up at your wedding. It's the weird dude you already spent, a couple hours with getting to know on site. So
Let me
get
ask you a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but so those sessions that you talk about, do you try to sell and book those sessions during the initial sales process when you're booking the wedding? Or is that something that you offer after they've already signed with you and is like a good reason to say, okay, hey, you've just booked welcome to the family. I want to offer these things. Like, where does that fall in your sales process?
It's part of the collection they're going with. So most
That
of
was
our
booked
collection
from the
Yep,
onset.
from the get-go. So most of them do include it. Sometimes people will later on down the line say, hey, you know what? We do want to do that. So I'd say like the majority of them, if they do book it, it's right from the get-go. Sometimes people will add it in there. So let's say people book a year out an example. Anywhere along that timeline before they get to their wedding, they're allowed to book their or schedule their engagement session. So we schedule that. That's a big touch point. So kind of planning that, going over outfits, going over locations. So we're actually like building a relationship there. Excuse me. Then we meet, do the shoot. So sometimes people say, hey, we have an urban vibe, or we want this really cool, this wooded area, or this really cool, X, Y, or Z, and we shoot there, and maybe 50% of the time they do that, and the other 50% they say, we have no idea what we want. Give us some ideas. So float some ideas out, make the plan. So we're already working as a team. Now we're shooting it. And during that session, we're getting to know them a little bit, getting to know more about their backstory, about what they love, about what they don't like, about what they're excited about their wedding, but more importantly, like how they interact together, right? Because there's a dynamic there that you can't really talk about. You just have to observe how they connect, how they hold hands, how they lean into each other, kind of that little bit. So for us, it's a bit of research. So that's like the biggest touch point along the way. Afterwards, we send them the photos, a couple weeks after the event. And then, depending on collection, they might have an engagement album built in. So then we're going to bring them in, hang out a little bit, have a coffee, glass of wine or something like that at the studio and design their actual album. So now they've already had a chance to taste, what the shoot's going to be like and what that album process is going to be like, because most of our photography collections on the wedding part include an album. So not all do the engagement album. Most do an engagement session.
Define the album. What is it? A physical book?
A physical book, really awesome printed album that locks in their engagement story. So some couples will use it for just like archival, awesome, keepsake forever. Some will actually use it for a guest book. So if they want it as guest book, leave a little extra white space around so people can leave some love in and amongst those pages.
Gotcha.
But there we go. So that's a big touch point. From there, things slow down a little bit, and we kind of have a couple things we'll send out, a little email with some, not really a planning kit, but more like next stages, what to expect, what are we going to do, tips for your wedding day, here's a sample timeline. And then if they have a planner, we'll usually get the timeline from them. If they don't, we'll go over that timeline roughly with them. And then maybe 3 months to a month, depending on their schedule, they'll finally get us all those details. We go over everything and walk through everything. So along the way, there's a number of touch points. I'm probably forgetting a couple of them. We have some automated stuff we send out, and then we obviously have those physical ones where we're connecting in person, connecting at the studio, or on the phone to walk through those final details.
Okay, so I have a couple questions for you. The timeline. You had mentioned getting it from the planner, so I think you probably know, like I do, most of the time we don't get the timelines from the planner until either the week of or a couple weeks out, within a month or so, because they're always working on it.
Right.
But do you have a specific process where you have the clients fill out like a timeline? Like you mentioned, like you might have a planning kit, but do you like
good point.
Regardless of the planner's timeline, like, hey, client, I need to get this information from you, because
yes,
I'll get into it when I talk about ours, but I make sure we do that. And then I compare it to the planner's timeline versus just using the planner's timeline.
Same, yeah. So Honeybook, it's an automated questionnaire we send out. Tell us the addresses where you're going to get ready. Because sometimes when they book, they don't know where they're getting ready at in the morning. They don't know if it's the hotel, at home, or whatever. So tell us where you're going to get ready, where you're going to be. What do you have planned for your portrait session? Do you have any specific locations if they didn't, initially? So it's all of that. And then the main portions of each day. So we say, here's the main portions. It's prep. For each of you, each of the couple. Then are we going anywhere? Then you have the portraits, maybe first look, then ceremony, reception. So just a little, rundown, and we recommend this much time for each portion of the day. If you can't do that, how can we rearrange the day just a little bit? Do you need us to start half an hour earlier? Do you need to move something around? So we have recommended time slots for each of those portions of the day, so that not only can we adequately just cover what's going on, but there's time to be creative and time for the couple to enjoy the day with their family, enjoy the day with their friends, and not be rushed. So that's kind of the philosophy behind that whole timeline. But yes, great question.
Okay. And now talk to me about let's call it the 14 days leading up to the wedding. What are the most important things you do? What are the things that you see that go wrong, or that you have to like the things you look for, the red flags that you're making sure are getting handled? What type of stuff happens, or what is your prep in those last 14 days?
Yeah, so usually by that point we're pretty locked in, right? So we might have one final timeline meeting. We're going to go over that timeline in 10 minutes, just because we've been talking about it for a while. We just go over those final details. Anything change in your photo list? People will send us some specific photo lists. Not necessarily like, we love this style shot and that style shot. It's more of like, hey, we're doing family photos. Afterwards, we're doing portraits of all of our extended family. I need to know who those people are. So that's one of the things we need. If they have none of this at this point, then you're kind of worried, like, oh boy, we're gonna wing it. I always say it doesn't really matter exactly what time things are happening as long as I know an order. So if people are so unorganized, they don't know what's going on, and they're like, all right, we're starting at this point, we're ending there, I can help them figure out each of those touch points throughout the day. Usually by this point, a planner will have stepped in and say, all right, give me that timeline, we're going to fix this. And any planner that knows what they're doing knows how much time you need for each of these portions of the day. So it's really just that final touch. I always say, hey, we're 2 weeks out. Let's go over these details. And then basically, we're not going to see each other till the wedding. I'll send you a text or give you a quick call just to say we're going to be there. But at this point, everything looks great, and we're ready to rock and roll. And we'll see you on Saturday, Sunday, Friday, whatever day.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Boom, nailed it. So I'm sure there's a lot of overlap there. I know you have a lot more, what I would say maybe pre-production going into it, the very specifics for their wedding. You have a lot of minute-to-minute timeline things that you need to hit, whereas mine are just like, hey, whatever happens next, as long as I kind of know what's going on, we're going to be good.
Yeah. I'm noticing I'm freezing up every once in a while. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, haven't frozen here yet.
Good. Okay. So there's a lot of overlap, but we have a pretty we try to be as like specific as possible, as intentional as possible in the planning process. So right after they book with us, a couple would book and they send the retainer and they sign their contract. We'll send them like a welcome email, welcome to the family email, and we'll just basically kind of lay out like, what does this look like between now and your wedding? And we'll say,
right.
Number one, we always encourage you, whoever, if you've booked one of the bands versus like a DJ, our DJs aren't necessarily out doing public gigs, but our bands often do. So we'll say, any chance that you have to go see your band live, please go out and not only go watch them, but go talk to them and get to know them and let them get to know you. We want to have a friendship developing. So we'll always tell them that. Go see your band live whenever and however often you can.
Right.
And then we'll walk them through that. We give them the access to their planning kit, which you mentioned, that we also use HoneyBook, but their web-based planning kit. And in that planning kit, we're going to ask them for, the section where they go through all the names, like how they're going to be introduced, what their parents' names are, bridal party, who the vendors are that they're working with, like, you or the venue or, whoever. Then we have a section that goes through the timeline where we very specifically ask them the parts of the timeline that are important to us. So when is guest arrival? When does the ceremony start? When is cocktail hour start and end? When is all the MC stuff going to happen? When does, do you want your first dances to be before or after dinner? Is dad doing a welcome speech? Is there a dinner prayer? Like all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then we have the music section, which I don't want to say is the most important, but, it's like the most fun.
Pretty important.
Yeah, it's definitely the most fun. And this is where they can go in, and the most important ones are, if we're doing the ceremony, what's your bridal party processional, what's your bride processional, what's your recessional, and that kind of stuff. But then for the reception, what is your first dance? What's your father-daughter? What's your mother-son? What song do you want to be introduced to for your grand intro? And then outside of that, we ask them, what are your favorite styles of music or least favorite? What are your favorite songs or least favorite? Who are your favorite artists or least favorite? And then just any of the information you want to share with us. And I'll often encourage our clients to start like a Spotify playlist where they just, over the course of that year,
that's a cool idea.
Anytime they hear a song that they're like, ooh, I love that song, they add it to that playlist. And I always tell them, don't just add like your dance bangers, add anything that means something to you. Because for us, and I would tell any other, MC, like DJ band people, to keep this in mind, there's multiple points throughout the night that you're curating music for, and it's not just the dance portion, like
right. So you got to create like a little bit of ebb and flow and movement, right?
We have the dinner music that I'm gonna do a custom playlist for my clients. We have the cocktail hour. We have the portion in between where they go from cocktail hour and they come in the room and they're getting seated and you want it to be fun, So I'll have them share all that information. So I give them that planning kit. We do right off the bat.
Nice.
And then we tell them, just start looking at it. Just put a little piece in here, a little piece there, whatever. And then the part about not hearing from them for a while, That's when it happens from that point, kind of like right after they book, until
Right.
about the 6 month mark, where really, like you said, people just kind of go back to life, right? They
Yeah,
don't
they're like,
really,
we
yeah,
got this done. Now we get to take a break, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
then a
Once
little
you've locked all your vendors in, right?
right.
Yeah, where they just don't need to talk to us. So we'll have them. We always tell them we're here if you need us, but there's nothing you have to do right now. And then,
I like that. That's a good point because then you can like they feel like they don't need to be doing anything. They can
right,
actually take a break. Like we're here if you need us. We can answer any questions, but don't worry about any of that because once 6 months comes, you're going to have plenty of time.
yep, that's exactly right.
Good to reinsure them.
Yep, yep. And so then at the 6 month mark, we'll hop on with an email and just say, hey, we hope you're doing great. We just want to give you some things that now we want you to actually start working on. We do need you to start thinking about what is your bridal dance? What is your father-daughter? What is your mother-son? Start thinking about things like who is going to be giving toasts. Start thinking about things like how would you like to be introduced. Start thinking about those things, and as you come up with them, put them in the planning kit, but just be working on that.
Right.
As always, we're here if you need us, but that's all we need from you right now. Then at the 4 month mark, now we're at, let's call it 16 weeks. We start the email process where we say, all right, it's time to start getting ready to schedule your final meeting.
Right.
It's time to start making sure that planning kit is filled out. It's time for us to start talking to your planner and making sure that we are all on the same page. And we start that actual physical process of scheduled touch points, things like that.
Cool. Quick
And
question for you.
yeah,
So in those email processes, is that something that you have to set reminders for yourself? Do you do automations? Do you run it through Honeybook? How do you guys work that? How do you stay on top of it? Because it's not like you just have one client every weekend. You have
right.
multiple. So there has to be some sort of workflow. And I'm just curious on that.
So three things. Number one, scheduled reminders that are part of a workflow. Yeah. So as soon as you book a client in our system, one button applies the client process workflow that we've pre-designed,
Cool.
puts it in there, puts dates based on their wedding date minus however many weeks. And that's
Gotcha.
how it triggers. Then number two, we have templates for some of these emails.
Right.
that
Because
are
they're
just like
always the same. Just
mostly
the names
the
have
same.
changed to protect
Yeah.
the innocent, right?
Yeah, we have templates, but then number three, though, we start with that template, but I always tell my team, and I do the same thing, start with the template, but always customize the email. I never want a client to literally be able to say, this is the exact same down to the
Right.
letter email that everybody else got. I always want to have something unique.
Yeah. Personalize it for them.
Yeah. So it might be like the template part of it might be, hey, client. I mean, their name will be in there. Hey,
Hey,
Lisa,
generic person.
yeah, right. We're at the 6 month mark. We want you to start working on, finalizing your decisions and that. But then I'll add
Right.
in things like, hey, I remember when we were having our initial conversations and you told us that Treasure by Bruno Mars was a song that you love and that you wanted to make sure you heard. So I just
Right.
want to remind you to put that in your planning kit. Or, that you had a grandpa who it's really important to you that he does the dinner prayer. I'll try to make sure they know that we're thinking
We're
about
paying
them.
attention, right?
Yeah, as much as they're thinking about us. So we get that going, and then we schedule that meeting about 6 to 8 weeks out. Now, DJs don't have to do it as far out. There, you can do that meeting 2 weeks out, and you're fine. But for those of us that are doing a live band, in many cases, we have to learn songs for them. So
Right.
we have to schedule times with the band to get together and write the charts, write the arrangements, practice it. So that's why we do that a little farther out. So I would say
Gotcha.
that my tip to anybody there is think about the work you need to do and make sure you're building enough time for you to do that kind of stuff, in there.
Totally.
And then it's just then we schedule the final meeting. Now here's the thing that actually made me think about this topic today. All of the stuff we just talked about, we'll have these instances where we'll do these, touch points, give them the planning kit, give them the reminders, do all this stuff. Then I get to the day of the final meeting, I go in and I print their planning kit out, and it's empty. Oh, maybe they have their name, the date, and the venue name, and that's it. And I'm like, come on,
Yeah,
you
right.
had all this time. And I'll say in the meeting, I'll kind of like jokingly say I'll hold the planning kit up in front of the camera and say, well, here's all the information I don't have from you, and they'll usually laugh and they'll be like, yeah, we know we were supposed to fill that out, but we thought we could just do that today together. I'm like, well, okay, today's about going over that information, not coming up with that information. But
Right.
hey, you know what? It is what it is. I'm sure you've had the same thing. We deal with it, right? It just
Totally, yeah. It happens all the time. I'd say like up to 50% of the time people are so busy, they totally forget. And, as long that's why we have these touch points, right? So that we can
Right.
slowly shepherd them along. And then also if they have a great planner too, I'm sure there's a little more work done that they did for the
Good
couple.
point. Yeah.
Too, but yeah, totally. It happens all the time. And then you're like, all right, well, now we're going to do it. So homework's due today.
And that's it. And that's in that meeting. Then we will go through what we can, and I'll make a list of homework items, open items, action items, and then immediately following that email, that meeting, I'll send out a new email to me, the client, their planner, and my team. Say, hey, great meeting. Here's what's left open. These are the things that I need you to start working on. We'll try to set dates for those, and try to make sure we nail those down. And then, kind of like what you said, the week of or like the 10 days of, we'll send an email out that says, okay, number one, all of our open items are checked off. We're ready to go on our end. Number two, we just want to give you a few pieces of advice from our experience. So number one is relax, enjoy the moment, be ready for a great night. Don't feel stressed. You've put a great team together. We are ready to go, and it's going to be an awesome night. So we'll
Right.
make sure we tell them those things and then remind them like, hey, here's your band leader's name. Here's your MC or your DJ's name. Here's our contact information. If you need anything in the next 10 days, you can text us now. You can feel free to reach out, and we're here,
Right.
at a moment's notice. And then other than that, we're ready to go, and we'll see you the night of. And then we kind of let it flow,
Nice.
And then after that, we'll touch base with the planners and make sure we have the most up-to-date copy of their timeline.
Right.
And I would encourage anyone, you, me, any other vendor, if you're working with a planner, always, always, always make sure you get their final timeline and review it compared to yours and make sure nothing's changed. Because I've found very often, and I actually want your opinion on this, I have found that there's plenty of instances
Oh, yeah.
where a couple will change something, but they tell their planner because they feel in their head like that's the master document.
Boom.
And then that doesn't necessarily filter down to the rest of us. Have you come across
Yeah,
that
totally.
as well?
Yeah, I found that happens also. So you go through that final meeting, right? And everything's good to go. The week before the wedding, you get the final one.
Yeah.
And then you cross-reference it, and the whole reception is rearranged. They were going to come in and do entrances and doing the dance, and now they're not, and they're going to do a whole bunch of stuff they never told you about. So it is important to cross-reference, absolutely. Sometimes we've gotten, sometimes like for big events, 3, 4, 5 days, you get the week of timeline, the day of the first event. So then you don't really even have time to look at the next days yet. You're just like, all right, today looks good. Today back and forth. What's up? Welcome to the podcast.
while you're going through that, I just wanted to say this is my niece Addie, and she's also my goddaughter, and she celebrated her 10th birthday yesterday. So I thought everybody that's
Happy
watching our
birthday.
podcast, Mike said happy birthday to you. As you could say, hey Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Actually, say ciao, Mike.
Ciao, Mike.
Hey, ciao.
So everybody, this is Addie. If you're out there watching the podcast, make sure you wish her a very happy 10th birthday. And we're having a great week this week. We're going to go out on the lake today on the boat and have a good day, right? Awesome. Okay. Yeah. All right. So anyway, you were saying, we make sure we get that final piece.
Final piece as soon as you can, but always cross-reference it. And, sometimes it's interesting because you'll just meet with the planner to go over the timeline every once in a while if you get a really busy couple from out of town or whatever, or you just meet with the couple and not the planner. So I always recommend hey, we need to all talk. We need to get the final details here and then go over them. So if there's too many decision makers, right, too many chefs in the kitchen, you got an issue. So you want to make sure through that whole process, everything's ironed out ahead of time. The further before the event you can get those final details, the easier everything's going to flow. But,
Yeah.
Some people, like you said, literally do nothing. So as a professional, we just say, no problem. Let's take it from here.
Yep. Okay, so one question I had for you. I talked about in the planning kit where I asked them about their music preferences, favorite artists, favorite genres, favorite songs, that kind of thing.
Right.
You talked about during the early sessions, engagement sessions, their story sessions, and all that kind of stuff. You get to know them and that kind of stuff. And then, of course, when you know the venue and the timeline, I'm sure a vast majority of the shots that you're going to get are just kind of like what to do. But when do you have the conversation, or do you have a conversation with your clients where you say, tell me, now that we're close to your wedding, any shots you want? Like, do you ask them, or is that kind of opening a can of worms and you're more like, nope, I already know what shots to get and we figure it out?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good mix of both because some couples, my favorite couples, we'll be like, hey, we trust you to do literally whatever you do during the wedding day. We don't even need to tell you. And I'm joking. They're not always just my favorite. But, some people have a little bit more of a stylized list. Like, I saw this really cool shot at the DAC, and I'd love something similar because my dress is going to do this. Or, our wedding party is the perfect size to get on the stairs and get this really cool shot. So we love all of that. And I always say it's a great point of departure. We're not going to just be like, cool, plagiarize, let's go. So most of the time, that initial talk is actually during the booking process. Like, hey, do you guys take input on the style of photos you shoot? Well, we always shoot the same style. We always shoot with what you see in our portfolio. It's going to look very similar to that as far as edit, as far as movement, as far as posing. But if you have something very specific you'd love, obviously we can take a look at that and add that in there too. So, if there's a very different style of photography that you love and you want us to change everything we do just to emulate that, that's not going to be a great fit. So in the beginning, we generally have that process, but maybe about, like I said, that 3-month mark, we always connect. And then I, in the video world, ask, hey, is there any, anything you saw along the way that you really loved or didn't like? And sometimes people will literally send us videos that we've shot and be like, hey, this is the coolest thing we ever saw. I love how you did this. It's a little more exciting than I thought we would want it, but it worked out great. We've had people send us photos from our own portfolio to be like, these are great. I really want some of these very, stylized shots in there, or whatever it might be. So it's always a fun part. It's a bit of discovery too. And that's, through that engagement session, you learn a lot of that too. So sometimes people will say, hey, we really loved these photos here. We want more of that. Can we do that on our wedding day? So, we shoot a whole spectrum from literally just photojournalistic coverage during the day. You're not going to step in and ruin a ceremony because someone's a half an inch off center, although sometimes I want to, and my OCD almost makes me do it. But then, there's a lot of stylized wow shots, money shots that are a little more posed or coached, because I always say not everyone accidentally stands with perfect connection and good light in a great location, so that's what we're there for, to help you do that. So when we have a little more of a glimpse into their mind and what they're looking for, whether it's through some images they sent over or just that final conversation, that really does help us hit the nail on the head, so to speak. Great question.
Yeah, got it. All right, so let's recap a little bit because we've talked about it from our point of view: a photographer, videographer, a band leader / DJ, MC, the entertainment side of things. But if you're a caterer or a florist or a planner or a decor or any of those photo booth or any of those other vendors,
right?
The big picture, what we talked about is you book a client. And I think what we would agree upon, tell me if you disagree, but I think what we both see is, number one, you have to figure out what information am I going to need from my client to be able to not just successfully, but amazingly do their wedding. Then you need to decide when and how does that information come from the client to me. Is it in written form? Is it in a conversation form? Is it a little bit of both? How that kind of thing goes.
Right.
And then assign milestones to those pieces of information. Have some sort of automated system with reminders and tasks and calendar entries and all that kind of stuff. But I think having that process of what you need, when you need it, and how you're going to get it documented is a critical success factor to pulling off a great wedding. Would you say that?
Yeah, I agree. And then the next step too is implementation. So let's say you get all of this information to kill it for this couple at an amazing wedding, and then you forget half of it, or you don't put it in, or not all the team gets it, or it doesn't go out in an email to everybody who's going to be there. So I think that's a huge part of it too, because we have sometimes 4 people on site, 2 photo, 2 video. You have to make sure everybody is on board for the vision. If they want a little more of a documentary style this, or a little more of that style, it's not like we're changing everything we do, but you want to have that in mind from the very get-go. So when you get to editing, you don't go, oops, forgot about that. So we always have a little team meeting right before we go out too. So obviously I get all that, project manager gets all that information, and then we have to give it to them. Any questions about this? All right, everyone understands the missions. These are the deliverables also. So that's another thing. So you can shoot one way if it's a very creative, non-linear edit, but you have to shoot another way if they're getting full coverage of the ceremony, full coverage of the reception, things like that. So people need to know what they're delivering in order to, to nail that for them as well.
That's a good point you just brought up that I didn't think about. That's probably a lot more important for you than it is for me, which is also during the planning process, documenting and making sure you're communicating to your client what they can expect and when after their
Yeah.
wedding, right?
Yeah, because literally, like, we have it throughout the whole process. From the time you meet me, I'll be like, all right, it's 3 to 5 months for this and that. After we shoot the wedding, hey, it was so great to shoot your day. It was so much fun. We had a great time. We'll get previews out, but 3 to 5 months it'll come. And
Yeah.
then sometimes like everyone's excited, right? But literally like 2 days later, are we gonna see our stuff? Is it done yet? Are we gonna get everything? I always like my default response is just want to be like, LOL, it's going to be a while. But I don't say that. It's like, hey, just a reminder. I know it's hard to wait. It is going to take this much time for your photos or this much time for your video. So you do have to set those expectations from the get go. And then obviously our whole plan is to promise and over deliver. So not only are they happy with what we did, but they're raving about how fast they got it, how exciting everything was. So that's obviously the plan from the beginning, to tell them, okay, it's going to be this long, and get it there just a little bit earlier so that they are happy with your expectations.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. Okay, couple of rapid fires on you.
Rapid fires.
From the time they book, monthly touch points, yes or no?
I wouldn't say monthly, but touch points, yes. That attentive service, super important. Maybe every month. It depends. I guess here's the actual answer. If you're a planner, probably yes, monthly touch points, because there's a lot more things going on. For photography, a couple big ones along the way, and then some smaller ones as you get closer. What about you?
I agree. I think the initial touch point when they book, and then as needed up until the 6-month point, and then from the 6-month point on, we usually do a monthly touch point.
Cool. All right, so this or that. So
Yep.
planning kit with a detailed form or a real conversation.
Both.
Perfect.
It is absolutely a written form that I want them filling out, and then we are going to have a conversation where we go through it in detail and make sure. And I always tell my clients, I'm going to be so nitpicky in this meeting so that the night of the wedding we can relax and let things flow.
Yeah,
Fill it out
that's
in
great.
writing, review it in person, 100%.
Boom.
Let's see here. You can't. Okay, what's? Tell me one thing that you wish clients did better throughout their planning process, and I'm going to say my answer can't be fill out your planning kit on time, because that's like duh. So like, what's one thing that you wished your clients would do better, or that they don't do, just do during the planning process?
I guess. Well, it's got to be wait to the last minute. So that's a default wrong answer because you said I couldn't say that. But waiting to the last minute kind of sabotages everyone, right? You can't do the best job if you are only learning right now that you needed to get this, that, and the other thing done. But that seldom happens. But I always the more you can touch base, the better. So don't hide away for the whole entire period and then jump out and get ready to build a relationship a week before the event. We'll still do it. It'll still be advantageous to do so, but you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot because you're missing a bit of the process, right? It's all about the journey.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I specifically, the easy answer for me is of course, fill out your planning kit. But the other thing that I wish clients would do for their own sake is not wait, after they book your vendor, not then don't think about that vendor for 6 months or a year or whatever. Like, keep your wedding front of mind and think about all the things that are going to be important to you, and be aware of everything you're doing. When you hear a song or you see something where that could be a great picture, just kind of keep those things in mind, because the more information that we get, the better we can do for our clients,
Yeah, I love that thing you said about the Spotify list. That's a super
Yeah.
cool way to have them curate it, and then it's going to be a fun list for them to look on in the future too, because
That's
it's
what
like,
I
hey,
tell
this
'em.
is everything that gave us inspiration for a wedding day, for a music, for a party, and then I remember dancing to the song. It was the last one of the night, or whatever it might be. Super
Yep.
fun idea. That's a great tip. I think everybody on your side of the table should be doing. That's awesome.
I always tell them exactly what you just said, that you'll be able to keep this list forever, and it'll be super fun. So that's awesome, man. Hey, listen, I've got, I don't know about you, but I got a beach right there that is calling my name. So I'm not going to stress this
Derek.
episode off. Derek, come swim.
Come swimming.
swim.
It's like it's supposed to be 100 degrees today too, so you are in the right spot.
Yes, and the lake, it's Lake Michigan, but the water temps are absolutely perfect. Going to drop the boat in. I can see a bunch of boats out there. The water's calm. It's going to be a lovely day. So if you are out there watching, I just want to say, number one, I hope you're having a fantastic summer. I know I am like just blessed and lucky to have these opportunities to spend time with family in between all of the
Oh, yeah.
weddings that we do. I'm lucky that when I am back at home doing these weddings, I get to work with guys like you, and it's just summertime in Michigan, man. Especially if you have a chance to come out to the lake towns. It's a great place. It's a I dare
One of the
say
best
there's
pla-
nowhere
yeah.
else. There's nowhere else in the country like this.
One of the best places to be.
Yeah, yeah. So next week I'll be back in the studio like normal. You are also going to be around.
Yeah, hopefully I get to a lake, man. I just want to get to the lake. I'll be somewhere cool next week. No, I'll be here. One of these
Well,
days, you're coming in this studio, and
I
we're going to
know.
actually
Well, maybe
do the
next week.
double
We'll
episode
see.
here.
That might work. But one episode, you need to come out to my boat back at home, and we can just shoot an episode together on the boat.
There we go. Okay, done. That's what we're doing next week.
I love it. I love it. All right, buddy. Have a great day. As always, if you're watching, drop a comment in. Let us know what you agree with or disagree with, or what else you'd love to hear us talking about.
Yeah, what you want to hear us talk about, send some ideas our way, and let us know if you'd love to be a guest. We're looking for some fun friends to hang out and chit-chat about the wedding world and event world.
There you go. And once again, happy birthday to my niece Addie over there, who's been watching
Happy
us
birthday,
every
Addie.
episode. Yeah. All right, man. I'll see you next week, and goodbye to everybody else.
All right.
Later.